Pleasant good morning to everyone. Once again, welcome to our English class. In this class, we are going to see about degrees of comparison. This is an important part in grammar. You might have studied in lower classes. At the same time, before learning degrees of comparison, first let me remind you about adjective. Adjective plays an important part in degrees of comparison. What do you mean by adjective? Adjective means a word which qualifies a noun is called as adjective. A word which qualifies a noun is called as adjective. For example, his voice is sweet. His voice is sweet. Here, sweet refers to the noun he. Just like that, she is a smart girl. She is a smart girl. Here the smart refers to she, noun she. So this is a way how adjective is used. Then here in degrees of comparison, adjective can be converted to three forms. One is positive, next one is comparative, next one is superlative. Positive, comparative and superlative. Adjectives can be changed in three forms: positive, comparative and superlative. Here many words are there. Let us see the changes in positive, comparative and superlative. In positive, sweet will change to sweeter in comparative, sweetest in superlative. Tall, taller, tallest. Small, smaller, smallest. Bold, bolder, boldest. Bold, bolder, boldest. Clever, cleverer, cleverest. Next one. Kind, kinder, kindest. Young, younger, youngest. Great, greater, greatest. So here the above words which I read now, here when you add er in the comparative, when you add er, it will change to sweeter, smaller, taller, bolder, cleverer, kinder, younger, greater. So in the superlative you have to add est. In the superlative you have to add est. Sweetest, smallest, tallest, boldest, cleverest, kindest, youngest, greatest. Next, come to the next one. When the positive ends in e, only r and st are added. Brave. Here, positive words. What are the positive words? Brave. brave. Last word is e. Fine. fine. Last word is e. White. Last word is e. Large. Last alphabet is e. Able. Last alphabet is e. Noble, last alphabet is e. So when you change these e will be converted to r. When in the comparative you have to use r along with that one. Brave, braver. In the superlative you have to add st. Brave, braver, bravest. Fine, finer, finest. White, whiter, whitest. Large, larger, largest. Able, abler, ablest. Noble, nobler, noblest. Noble, nobler, noblest. Wise, wiser, wisest. Wise, wiser, wisest. Then so a few words that ends with y in positive, the words that ends with y, but it is but when you change to comparative you have to add er. When you change to superlative you have to add st. Happy, happier, happiest. Easy, easier, easiest. Heavy, heavier, heaviest. Merry, merrier, merriest. Wealthy, wealthier, wealthiest. Red, redder, reddest. Big, bigger, biggest. Hot, hotter, hottest. Thin, thinner, thinnest. Sad, sadder, saddest. fat, fatter, fattest, beautiful. Here are special words. It is two syllable words, syllable words. When you change to comparative, it will when it will change to two syllable in comparative, and also in superlative also it will change to two or more. Positive, beautiful, comparative, more beautiful, superlative, most beautiful. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Difficult, more difficult, most difficult. Difficult, more difficult, most difficult. Industrious, more industrious, most industrious. Courageous, more courageous, most courageous. Then come here a few irregular comparisons are there. So the following the following adjectives are compared irregularly. That is the comparative and superlative are not formed from the positive. Here the comparative and superlative are not formed from the from the positive. That means there will be no similarity, there is no similarity with positive word. Good, better, best. First one is good, better, best. Good, better, best. Next, bad, worse, worst. Bad, worse, worst. Little, less, least. Little, less, least. Little, less, least. Next, much, more, most. Much, more, most. Much, more, most. Next, many, more, most. Many, more, most. Next, late, later, latest. Late, later, latest. Late, later, latest. Next, old, older, oldest. Old, older, oldest. Old, older, oldest. Next, far, further, furthest. Far, further, furthest. Far, further, furthest. These are the words. Now let us see how we use these words in positive, comparative and superlative. How we use in positive, comparative and superlative. For example, when you take the word big, it is positive word. So when you use it in positive, you have to use as big as or so big as big as or so big as. Then in comparative, bigger than. In comparative it will come as bigger than. In superlative it will change to the biggest. You have to add the and est. The biggest. Then come to the second one. Pretty. When you take the word pretty, you have to use as prettiest in positive statement. When you use in positive, you have to use as prettiest. But when you change to comparative, you have to use prettier than. When you change to the one important thing that you have to keep it in mind, in comparative, than is important. Than is important. After the adjective, than is important. Prettier than. Then in superlative, the prettiest. The prettiest. Here you have to add in front of the adjective. The, that is compulsory in superlative, that you have to keep it in mind. You have to add the before the adjective word. The prettiest. Then come to next example. As beautiful as beautiful as. Here the beautiful will change to more beautiful and comparative. In superlative, most beautiful. So more beautiful than. In comparative, than is must. Remember that. More beautiful than. Here most beautiful. Here the most beautiful. Here the most beautiful. Next one. As kind as. Kind, when you take the word kind, adjective kind, when you use in positive, as kind as. Then when you come to comparative, kinder than. When you come to comparative, kinder than. When you come to superlative, the kindest. When you come to superlative, you have to use the kindest. Next one, as good as. As good as. In comparative is positive. In comparative, better than. Good, better, best. Good, better, best. As good as. As good as. In comparative, better than. In comparative, you have to use better than. In superlative, you have to use the best. Good, better, best. The best. Next one. So bad as. Bad was worst. Bad was worst. That is a formation. Bad, that is positive, that means as bad as. When you change to comparative, was than. Was than. Than is important. Was than. And when you come to superlative, the worst. The worst. Then come to next one. As much as. As much as. As much as. When you come to comparative, more than. More than. Much more, most. Much more, most, many more, most. Both are same. Much more, most, or many more, most. The more. Here as much as. When you come to comparative, more than. When you come to superlative, the most. Then come to next one. As little as. As little as. When you come to comparative, less than. Little, less, least. That is a formation. Little, less, least. Little, less, least. That is a formation. Little, less, least. Little, as. When you come to comparative, less than. When you come to superlative, least. The least. When you come to superlative, the least. Next one. Near, nearer, nearest. Near, nearer, nearest. Here, near can be used in positive in this way. As near us. As near us. When you come to comparative, nearer than. Nearer than. When you come to superlative, the nearest. When you come to superlative, we should use the nearest. Next one. Come to the next one. As greatest. As greatest. Then when you come to comparative, greater than. When you come to superlative, the greatest. Great, greater, greatest. That is a formation. Great, greater, greatest. When you use in positive, as greatest, but when you use in comparative, greater than. When you use in superlative, the greatest. Next one. As interior, as. Interior, inner, innermost. Interior, inner. So how to use this one? As interior as. When you come to comparative, interior than. When you come to superlative, the innermost. The innermost. So let us see the examples one by one. Here we have three types. We are going to the first type now. We are going to the first type now. Type 1. Example. My friend is the richest man in the town. My friend is the richest man in the town. That means The richest, as we saw earlier, rich, richer, richest, the richest, you have to use it as the richest. My friend is the richest man in the town. That means only one person is a, we are selecting the topmost person who is in the topmost. My friend comes in the topmost, so we are using topmost person. My friend is the richest man in the town. That means no other person will be there, only he is the richest person. My friend is the richest man in the town. That is called as superlative. That is a way how we use it in superlative. But when you come to comparative, I told you earlier, than, using than is must in comparative. Here rich, richer in positive, rich in comparative, richer in superlative, richest. When you change to comparative degree, than is important. At the same time, the adjective rich will change to richer. My friend is richer than any other man in the town. Here than any other. Any other means no one will be there, only he is a topmost. My friend is richer than any other man in the town. That is a comparative degree. So when you came to when you come to positive degree, here we have seen in past superlative and comparative. In superlative we have seen my friend is the richest man in the town. That means we are selecting a topmost. Here when you compare in when you compare in comparative degree, my friend is richer than any other man in the town. Here it says that no other no other man is richer than him. That's the meaning of that one. Then come to the positive. When you come to positive, you have to use, if you are selecting the topmost, you have to use no other. You have to use no other man in the town is so rich as my friend. When you use no other, we have to use so rich as. When you use no other, we have to use so rich as. No other man in the town is so rich as my friend. That is a positive degree. I will show you how it is explained here. Tips to remember. Tips to remember. When you come to positive, when you use no other, you have to use as dashes or so dashes. But in comparative, when you come to comparative, you have to use greater or smaller, just like that, according to the words, than any other. When you come to superlative, the tallest, the richest, just like that. This is a thing you have to keep in mind. If you want, just take a screenshot of this box, what is given there. Then come to the example 2. John is the smartest boy in the class. I told you the smartest, the est comes means it is superlative. The est comes means it is superlative. John is the smartest boy in the class. That is superlative. Here underline the smartest. Underline the smartest. So how to change it to comparative degree? Let us see how it is changed to comparative degree. John is smaller. John is smarter than any other boy in the class. John is smarter than any other boy in the class. Here underline smarter than any other. Here you have to underline smarter than any other, because in the past, in the superlative, how the statement comes, John is the smartest boy in the class. That means he ranks the topmost. He is the topmost. He is the topmost in smartness. So when you come to comparative, you have to use John is smarter than any other boy. That is important. That means no one will be there except him. No one will be there. That's the meaning of that one. Then when you come to comparative, you can directly write it. No other boy is so smart as John in the class. No other boy is so smart as John in the class. Here underline no other so smartest. Underline no other and so smartest. Then come to the next one. Tinu is the cleverest girl in the class. Tinu is the cleverest girl in the class. Underline the cleverest. Here it is not mentioned. You have to identify whether it is comparative or superlative or positive. Here, how to find out superlative? Superlative means the est will come. The est will come. Tinu is the cleverest girl in the school. The cleverest. You have to underline the cleverest. To identify the sentence, you have to underline the cleverest. So the est means it is superlative. Then when you come to the next one, Tinu is clever than any other girl in the class. Tinu is cleverer than any other girl in the class. Here it is comparative. Then comes means it is conformly it is comparative. But in the sentence, Tinu is clever than any other girl in the any other girl, not girls, any other girl in the school. Here you have to underline cleverer than any other girl. Cleverer than any other girl. Then come to the next one. When you come to positive degree, you have to start with no other girl. No other girl in the class is so clever as Tinu in the school. No other, you have to underline no other and as clever as. You have to underline no other and as clever as. No other girl in the class. No other girl is so clever as Tinu in the school. Now come to the next type of adjective. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Come to the seventh question. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. How to change this in? How to change this one to superlative degree? The most est will come. The most here. Here instead of est you have to use more beautiful. In some words we cannot use est, so instead of that you have to use most. More, just like that. Look at the example. Peacock is the most beautiful bird. Peacock is the most beautiful bird. But when you change to comparative, here in positive you have to underline the most beautiful bird. But when you come to comparative, peacock is more beautiful than any other bird. Peacock is more beautiful than, underline more beautiful than any other. Underline more beautiful than any other. Underline more beautiful than any other. Then come to the positive. Positive directly you can write no other girl is so smart as peacock. No other girl is so smart as peacock. Underline no other so smart as. So smart as. Then let us come to the type 2. Type 2 means the first type we are selecting the topmost or the least. We are taking the topmost or the least. From the least first or the first from the topmost. Here we are, if if 10 students are there, or if 10 boys, if 10 girls or the boys or whoever it may be, or in a group 17 students are there, if you are selecting one among them, you are not selecting the topmost or the least, but excluding the topmost and least, you are selecting one among them. In that case, you have to use type 2. Here, Tagore is one of the greatest Indian poets in India. Look at the sentence. Tagore is one of the greatest Indian poets. Underline one of the greatest Indian poets in India. That means there are many poets. He is one among them. There are many poets, but Tagore is one among them. So we are using Tagore is one of the greatest Indian poets in India. Tagore is one of the greatest Indian poets in India. That is a superlative degree. Underline one of the greatest Indian poets. Underline one of the greatest Indian poets. One of the greatest Indian poets. Then come to next, how to change to comparative. In the first type we saw, we selected the topmost or the least, but in the second type we are taking one among them. Here we have picked Tagore, one among the great poets. Here how to turn to comparative degree. Tagore is greater than most other Indian poets. Tagore is greater than most other or many other. Most other or many other. Tagore is greater than most other Indian poets. In the type 1 we have seen, than any other, but in the type 2, than many other or most other, than many other or most other. That is the important thing. Then come to the next one. How to change to positive. Very few Indian poets in India are as great as Tagore. Very few Indian poets in India are as great as Tagore. Very few Indian poets are as great as. Underline very few as great as. Underline very few as great as. Very few Indian poets in India are as great as Tagore. Next one. When we come to next example, Chennai is one of the biggest cities, CITIES, cities in India. CITIES, there is a spelling mistake, just change it. Chennai is one of the biggest cities in India. One of the biggest cities. That means there are many cities. There are many big cities, but it is one among them. It is not the topmost or the least, but it is one among them. So we are writing Chennai is one of the biggest cities in India. Underline one of the biggest cities. Now, how to change this is superlative degree because one of the cities there. Then how to convert to the positive degree? Comparative degree. Comparative means always than should be there. Chennai is bigger than. Big, bigger, biggest. Big, bigger, biggest. Chennai is bigger than most other cities in India. Chennai is bigger than most other cities in India. That is a comparative. You have to underline the most other cities. You have to underline than most other, bigger than most other. Then when you come to positive degree, instead of no other, we have to use very few, because no other means you are selecting the topmost or the least. Very few means if you are selecting one among them, you have to use very few. Very few Indian cities are as big as Chennai. Very few Indian cities are as big as Chennai. underline very few and as big as, underline very few and as big as. So in the next class we will see the remaining part of degrees of comparison. Go through the video 1 or 2 times and understand it, and when you come to the interactive class we will discuss it. Thank you. Have a nice day.